Tonight, we drift into the quiet story of a boy who never asked for attention, a boy who didn't dream of fame, or wealth, or cameras. He simply wanted to understand one thing more deeply than anyone else: how to make the perfect YouTube video. Long before the world knew his name, he sat alone in a small room in North Carolina, staring at a blank screen, whispering ideas to himself, recording videos no one would watch. He wasn't loud or confident or socially comfortable. He was shy, thoughtful, a little isolated. But inside him lived a gentle, obsessive spark, a curiosity that grew quietly, day by day. This is the story of Jimmy Donaldson. The world calls him MrBeast. But the truth is softer than the name suggests. Behind the massive challenges, behind the impossible stunts, behind the videos watched by millions is a quiet mind, careful, sensitive, disciplined, and endlessly determined. Tonight, we walk slowly through his life. Not the loud parts, not the headlines, but the silent steps it took to get here, the years of posting without being seen, the frustration of being misunderstood, the lonely nights studying analytics for hours at a time, the friends who showed up at just the right moments, and the gentle, almost reluctant rise of the world's biggest YouTuber. So settle in. Let your breathing slow. Let the world soften around you. This is a calm, quiet journey, a story about persistence, humility, and the strange, gentle path that led a shy teenager toward global influence. This is the life of MrBeast, told not through spectacle, but through stillness. Let's begin. Jimmy Donaldson was born in the quiet town of Greenville, North Carolina, a place where the days moved slowly and the nights felt peaceful enough to hear the hum of streetlights. He grew up in a modest home surrounded by ordinary routines, school mornings, backyard games, weekend errands. Nothing about his early world hinted at the global influence he would one day have. What stood out even then was his gentle nature. He spoke softly, preferred small spaces, and found comfort in the quiet corners of the house where he could think without interruption. From a young age, Jimmy seemed to live partly inside his mind. He wasn't the loudest in the room, nor the fastest on the playground. Instead, he was observant, watching how people moved, how they reacted, how small details shaped everything. When other kids ran around in crowds, Jimmy often stood to the side, studying the moment like it was a puzzle. He wasn't avoiding anyone. He simply felt more at ease when the world wasn't rushing at him all at once. Home became his sanctuary. He spent hours alone in his room, not out of loneliness, but out of a deep sense of comfort. Video games, internet forums, and the glow of a computer screen became part of his daily rhythm. He enjoyed the feeling of pressing keys and watching the digital world respond instantly, as if the computer understood him better than most people did. While other kids dreamed of sports teams or comic book heroes, Jimmy dreamed of worlds he could build with his own hands. His childhood friends often noticed how quiet he was, how he sometimes struggled to express his thoughts aloud. But they also noticed something else. When Jimmy found something he cared about, his eyes lit up with an energy that didn't match his soft voice. He had a way of focusing intensely, tuning out everything else, until he understood the thing he was curious about. It was a calm kind of obsession, built from stillness rather than excitement. Jimmy's mother remembered him as a thoughtful child. He didn't cause much trouble, didn't demand much attention, and didn't push himself into conversations. But he cared deeply about the people around him. When someone felt upset, Jimmy noticed before anyone else. When someone was left out, he gravitated toward them instinctively. His quiet nature wasn't a barrier, it was a lens, helping him see emotions others often overlooked. Greenville itself shaped him gently. Surrounded by familiar streets, steady routines, and a close-knit community, Jimmy grew up with a sense of calm stability. There were no grand pressures, no public expectations, no spotlight waiting to find him. He had space to think, space to dream, space to grow into himself without being rushed. The world felt big and distant, leaving him free to explore curiosity in small, meaningful ways. One of the earliest sparks in Jimmy's life came when he discovered his family's computer. It wasn't particularly fast, and it wasn't particularly new, but to him it felt like a doorway. He sat in front of the screen for hours, gently clicking through menus, exploring programs, and trying to understand how everything worked. He felt a calm satisfaction every time he discovered a new feature or solved a tiny digital mystery. This curiosity wasn't loud or dramatic. It was steady and patient, like the quiet rhythm of his hometown. As he grew older, the computer became more than just a tool. It became his way of understanding the world. He browsed early YouTube videos, fascinated that ordinary people could upload content and share it with strangers across the globe. He watched gaming clips, random experiments, and simple vlogs filmed on shaky cameras. He didn't know it yet, but something in him was studying these videos with an intensity far beyond childhood entertainment. He was learning a language he would one day speak fluently. In those early years, Jimmy was still just a quiet kid, curious, introspective, and content with small routines. But beneath the surface, something was forming, an unusual blend of creativity, discipline, and gentle determination. He wasn't trying to become someone extraordinary. He wasn't chasing approval or recognition. He was simply listening to a quiet voice inside him, a voice that told him to keep exploring, to keep learning, and to keep moving towards something he couldn't yet name. And in the stillness of that small room in North Carolina, a spark began to grow, softly, quietly, almost invisibly. Jimmy's childhood wasn't always easy, even though the world around him seemed quiet and predictable. His parents separated when he was young, creating a gentle fracture in the home he knew. There were no dramatic arguments or loud moments, just a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a change he felt more than he understood. As a sensitive, introverted child, Jimmy absorbed the emotions around him quietly. He didn't talk about it much, but inside, the separation left a soft ache that shaped how he viewed the world. Through it all, his older brother CJ became one of his closest anchors. The two of them didn't need many words to communicate. They bonded through long afternoons of gaming, shared jokes, and silent understanding. CJ had a louder personality, and Jimmy balanced him with calm observation. Their dynamic was simple and comforting, one brother exploring the world energetically, the other watching thoughtfully. In a home where things sometimes felt uncertain, their connection grounded them both. Jimmy often used the computer as a way to cope with change. It gave him a sense of control during moments when life felt confusing. The digital world didn't shift unpredictably. It responded consistently, patiently, and immediately. He clicked through game menus, learned new software, and browsed websites with an almost meditative focus. The screen lit his face with a gentle glow, becoming a quiet companion during times when he needed something steady. One afternoon, when he was around 12 years old, Jimmy stumbled onto something that would reshape his entire future: YouTube. It wasn't the polished version we know today. The platform was messy, unpredictable, filled with simple videos filmed on low-quality webcams. But to Jimmy, it felt alive. Ordinary people were sharing pieces of their lives with strangers across the world. Kids his age were posting gaming clips. Teenagers were telling stories. Adults were building communities from scratch. He watched video after video, entranced by the freedom of it. There were no gatekeepers, no networks, no executives deciding what deserved to exist. Anyone, with any camera, any voice, any idea, could upload something. It was a world built from curiosity, a world built from creativity. And something inside Jimmy resonated instantly. He didn't know it then, but he had discovered the place where his mind felt most at home. He found himself imagining what he might upload, not because he wanted attention, but because he loved the idea of creating something from nothing. He began studying creators carefully, how they spoke, how they edited, how their thumbnails looked. He noticed patterns others overlooked, subtle details that shaped whether someone clicked or scrolled away. It wasn't just entertainment to him. It was a puzzle waiting to be solved. At school, Jimmy stayed quiet, keeping most of his thoughts to himself. His teachers described him as thoughtful, polite, sometimes distracted. But when he came home and sat in front of the computer, his mind ignited. He took notes on video ideas. He replayed clips to understand timing. He watched subscriber numbers rise and fall and wondered why. His curiosity grew not in sudden bursts, but in a calm, steady arc that deepened each day. The challenges at home didn't disappear, but YouTube gave him something new, something to hold on to. It didn't replace the pain or the confusion, but it gave him direction. It gave him possibility. It allowed him to dream quietly, without needing permission from anyone, and though the world didn't yet know his name, Jimmy had found a path that felt like it was meant for him. And in that gentle spark, the foundation of MrBeast was beginning to form. Jimmy uploaded his very first YouTube videos with almost no expectations. He recorded them in his small bedroom surrounded by plain walls, a simple desk, and a computer that struggled to keep up with even basic tasks. His microphone was cheap, his editing tools were limited, and his voice was soft and unsure. But none of that mattered to him. What mattered was the feeling he got every time he pressed upload, a quiet, private thrill that someone, somewhere, might see his work. He didn't tell many people about his channel. It wasn't something he bragged about or used to impress others. In fact, he liked the anonymity. There was something freeing about creating content without pressure or judgment. He could experiment, fail, try again, and keep learning, all from the safety of his room. For a shy boy who didn't enjoy crowds or loud conversations, YouTube became a place where he could express himself gently, in his own time, and in his own way. The first videos were simple, small gaming clips, commentary attempts, and basic experiments inspired by the channels he watched. Looking back, they weren't polished or even particularly entertaining, but they were honest. They were the pure expression of a kid who loved the idea of making something, even if no one else noticed. Jimmy wasn't driven by applause. He was driven by improvement. Every video felt like a tiny step forward, a chance to learn one more thing about the platform he was slowly falling in love with. Days turned into months, and the view count stayed low. Sometimes a video would get a handful of clicks, sometimes none at all. But Jimmy didn't get discouraged. There was a quiet resilience in him, a patience that kept him going even without results. He believed that if he kept showing up, kept posting, kept trying, something would eventually work. He didn't need immediate success, he just needed progress, no matter how small. He filmed every upload with the same gentle determination. He spoke softly into his little microphone, hoping his voice would come through clearly enough to understand. He edited slowly, cutting clips one by one, teaching himself everything from scratch. He stayed up late, not because he was chasing fame, but because he genuinely loved the process, this slow, careful craft of making a video feel just a little better than the one before it. His room became both his workspace and his creative sanctuary. The soft glow of the screen lit up the dark corners. The quiet tapping of keys became part of the nightly rhythm of the house. While other kids spent evenings out with friends or relaxing after school, Jimmy sat at that desk, inching closer to a future he couldn't yet imagine. He didn't see YouTube as a career. He saw it as a calling, a place where his quiet nature could finally be an advantage. Posting with no audience taught him something important, that dedication mattered more than recognition, that effort mattered more than applause, and that mastery was built one tiny improvement at a time. Even in those early days, Jimmy approached YouTube with an intensity hidden beneath his quiet exterior. He wasn't loud, but he was relentless. He wasn't confident, but he was committed. And slowly, patiently, he was laying the foundation for something extraordinary. brick by brick, video by video, night after night, in that small Greenville room. Jimmy's early YouTube years were shaped by something most people never see: long stretches of silence. He posted video after video, only to refresh the page and watch the view count stay firmly at 0. Sometimes a single click would appear, and he'd wonder if it was a stranger, or if it was just him checking his own channel by accident. There were no comments, no subscribers, no signs that anyone out there was listening. But Jimmy didn't stop. The emptiness didn't scare him away. It pulled him deeper into curiosity. As the months passed, he became fascinated not with popularity, but with the mechanics of the platform. He studied how thumbnails looked, how titles were written, how pacing affected viewer retention. He paid attention to things most 12-year-olds never thought about: click-through rates, watch time, average view duration. Even with no audience, he treated his channel like a quiet experiment, something he could test and refine every day. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was education. Jimmy started teaching himself editing through trial and error. He downloaded free software, watched tutorials, and practiced until his fingers memorized each shortcut. His edits weren't flashy, but they were improving, slowly, steadily, almost invisibly. He learned how to cut pauses, how to time jokes better, how to keep the energy flowing without overwhelming the viewer. Editing became a language he wanted to speak fluently, a craft he could shape quietly in the solitude of his bedroom. There was something calming about the routine. School during the day, homework in the afternoon, then hours spent editing into the night. The computer's soft hum became a companion in the quiet house. The glow of the screen reflected his growing obsession, not a frantic or unhealthy one, but a gentle, persistent drive. Some kids collected cards, some played sports. Jimmy collected knowledge about YouTube, data points, patterns, tiny insights he picked up one by one. Even as the years passed with barely any views, he didn't once consider quitting. He believed that if he worked harder than anyone else, one day the work would show results. His belief wasn't loud. It wasn't filled with confidence or bravado. It was quiet, almost whisper-like, an inner voice telling him to keep going. He wasn't chasing fame or recognition. He was chasing improvement, and every new video, even if unseen, made him just a little better than he was the day before. Jimmy's friends didn't fully understand why he cared so much about YouTube. To them, it was just a website. But Jimmy saw something deeper, a place where someone like him, someone who didn't fit comfortably into loud social environments, could build something meaningful from behind a screen. YouTube was a space where effort mattered more than charisma, where ideas could grow without needing permission. It was a peaceful place for a quiet mind. By the time he entered his early teens, Jimmy had uploaded hundreds of videos, most of which barely left a trace on the internet. But he had also gained something incredibly rare: discipline. He had unknowingly trained himself to show up every day, to learn piece by piece, to build something slowly and patiently. The audience still wasn't there, but the foundation was. And somewhere inside that quiet teenage boy, a subtle transformation had begun. The shy kid from North Carolina was developing a mindset built for something extraordinary. Not through luck, not through talent, but through a gentle obsession that refused to fade. Jimmy had always been curious, but something changed as he entered his mid-teens. His interest in YouTube deepened from a hobby into a quiet, consuming focus. He discovered the Analytics tab on his Creator dashboard, and it felt like unlocking a secret map. Inside it were numbers, graphs, and patterns that most young creators ignored, but to Jimmy, it felt like the pulse of the platform. He saw meaning in every spike, every dip, every tiny shift in retention. He started checking analytics not once a day, but many times, almost unconsciously. He would finish a video, upload it, and then refresh the page again and again, watching as the view count crawled forward. Even if it only moved from 1 to 2 views, He studied it carefully. He watched how quickly the numbers changed, how long people stayed when they clicked away. For most creators his age, those numbers would have been discouraging. For Jimmy, they were clues. Pieces of a puzzle he was determined to understand. Late at night, long after the house had become silent, Jimmy would sit alone at his desk with the soft blue glow of the monitor lighting his face. He clicked through each metric with an intensity that contrasted with his gentle, quiet personality. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't obsession. It was something quieter, a patient curiosity, a desire to understand how the world worked. He felt like a scientist studying a slow-moving experiment, learning everything he could from the smallest details. He noticed patterns in other channels, too. He watched as certain thumbnails performed better than others, wondering why some colors caught people's eyes while others didn't. He analyzed titles word by word, trying to understand what made someone click. He compared video lengths, intro styles, pacing rhythms. His mind worked in layers, first observing, then testing, then refining. Each small pattern became a thread he wanted to follow until he understood the whole design. The numbers didn't overwhelm him. They grounded him. Each tiny improvement, a slightly longer watch time, a slight increase in clicks, felt like proof that he was getting closer to something meaningful. He didn't need millions of views to feel encouraged. A 2% increase in retention was enough to fuel hours of reflection. A thumbnail that performed a little better than usual could occupy his thoughts for days. His progress was quiet, invisible to the world, but deeply satisfying to him. Over time, he developed rituals around his analytics checks. He'd sit in his worn-out computer chair, lean forward with his elbows on the desk, and let the stillness of the room surround him. His breathing would slow, matching the soft hum of the computer tower. He clicked through each tab with methodical calmness. Overview, real-time, reach, engagement. The numbers changed slowly, gently, almost like they were breathing alongside him. As he studied the analytics, Jimmy began to see patterns that others overlooked. He realized that the first 10 seconds of a video determined almost everything. He learned that pacing mattered more than quality. He discovered that people stayed longer when the energy remained consistent. He observed that viewers clicked away instantly if something felt too slow, too confusing, or too unfocused. Each insight felt like a small treasure, hidden knowledge buried in the quiet corners of the platform. Most teenagers spent this age searching for identity or belonging. Jimmy spent it searching for clarity. YouTube gave him something to hold on to, something he could improve endlessly. The analytics became a mirror that reflected his growth back to him. Every video taught him something new. Every failure sharpened his understanding. With each passing month, his once random experiments grew more intentional, more structured, more aligned with the patterns he was uncovering. Friends at school thought he was simply into YouTube, but Jimmy knew it went deeper. He wasn't chasing the excitement of going viral. He was chasing mastery. He was trying to understand something that felt vast and mysterious, something far bigger than the small bedroom he worked in. The numbers gave him direction, purpose, and something to work toward every day. They were steady and predictable, unlike the scattered emotions of everyday life. Slowly, without realizing it, Jimmy was shaping his mind into something extraordinary. His hours of studying analytics turned into instinct. His instinct turned into strategy. And strategy began transforming into quiet expertise. Jimmy's fascination with analytics naturally grew into experimentation. He realized that if he wanted to understand YouTube, he had to test its boundaries, not in theory, but in practice. So he began creating videos that no one else would think to make. Videos that were simple, unusual, almost meditative. Videos where he pushed himself to extremes, not for attention, but for insight. Each idea was a gentle experiment designed to answer a question only he cared about. One of his first major experiments was counting to 10,000. It was a video that made almost no sense to anyone except Jimmy. For him, it was a test of length, pacing, and viewer curiosity. He sat at his desk for hours on end, gently speaking numbers one after another into his small microphone. The process was slow, repetitive, almost hypnotic. He wasn't performing. He wasn't acting. He was simply exploring, listening to the rhythm of the numbers, watching how his patients shaped the content. The recording took nearly all day. His voice grew tired, his eyes unfocused, but he stayed with it, driven by a quiet determination that had been building inside him for years. When he uploaded the video, something unexpected happened. People clicked. They didn't watch the whole thing, of course, but they were curious enough to give it a chance. The view count ticked upward, slowly but noticeably. Jimmy watched it with calm excitement, realizing that he had discovered something valuable. People were drawn to commitment. Encouraged by the experiment, Jimmy tried more ideas, each one stranger and more time-consuming than the last. He read every word in the dictionary, sitting for hours as he slowly made his way through page after page. He said, "Logan Paul 100,000 times. He watched paint dry. He recorded himself spinning a fidget spinner for as long as possible. These weren't stunts. They were tests, gentle probes into the psychology of attention. There was a meditative quality to these videos. Jimmy didn't rush. He didn't force excitement into them. He simply carried out each task with patient focus. His calm, steady energy became an unintentional part of the content. People found themselves relaxing as they watched him commit to something so simple, so repetitive, so strangely soothing. His quiet voice counting numbers or reading lines of text created an unexpected sense of comfort for viewers. Behind the scenes, Jimmy analyzed every experiment with precision. He tracked retention charts, noting where viewers clicked away. He tested thumbnail styles, observing which colors or expressions drew curiosity. He altered pacing and upload frequency. He tried shorter versions and longer versions. Each experiment added a new layer to his understanding, helping him refine the invisible formula he was building between instinct and data. For most people, these videos would have been exhausting. But for Jimmy, the long hours became a kind of meditation. He found peace in repetition, purpose in endurance. The world outside his room could be unpredictable, but these challenges were steady. They had rules, boundaries, clear start and end points. And within those boundaries, he found a sense of control that gave him comfort. These early experiments didn't make him famous, but they made him better. They sharpened his ability to predict what people would click on. They helped him understand how long a viewer might stay. They showed him the importance of novelty, the way an unusual idea pulled people in without needing high production value. He didn't need expensive equipment or a big audience. He only needed curiosity and patience. As months passed, he continued to create more than 100 of these unusual videos. He filled notebooks with observations and future ideas, writing down everything that came to mind. Some ideas were simple, some were impractical. Some were so strange that even Jimmy laughed at them, but he kept them all, knowing that one day they might help him understand something new about YouTube's rhythm. Every experiment taught him something about himself, about content, about attention, and about the platform he was slowly decoding. He wasn't chasing virality. He was studying it gently, methodically, like a quiet researcher conducting an endless series of small but meaningful trials. Jimmy's journey toward becoming a full-time creator didn't begin with confidence. It began with uncertainty, quiet, heavy, and persistent. By the time he reached late high school, YouTube had become more than a hobby. It had become a part of him, something he couldn't imagine letting go. But the world around him expected something different. People assumed he would follow a traditional path: college, job, stability. And for a while, Jimmy tried to follow that expectation. He enrolled in college, hoping it would provide clarity or at least a sense of direction. But from the moment he stepped onto campus, he felt something was off. The hallways buzzed with energy and conversation, yet none of it matched the rhythm of his mind. He sat in classrooms surrounded by students who seemed to know what they wanted, while he quietly wrestled with the fear that he was wasting precious time. Lectures felt distant. Assignments felt disconnected from anything he cared about. His heart wasn't in the textbooks. It was still in his bedroom, in front of the glowing monitor where he had spent years building something no one else seemed to understand. Every day at college, Jimmy felt pulled in two directions. One path was familiar to everyone, safe, predictable, accepted. The other path was invisible, uncertain, and nearly impossible to explain. When he told people he wanted to be a YouTuber, they looked at him with polite confusion, assuming it was a phase or a fantasy. No one saw the spreadsheets he filled with data, the hours he spent learning editing, or the quiet fire that kept him working through the night. They saw a hobby. He saw a future. The conflict grew heavier with each passing week. He tried to force himself to focus on classes, but his mind drifted constantly. He would sit in a lecture hall listening to a professor speak while imagining a thumbnail concept or a new challenge idea. During breaks, he found himself checking analytics instead of socializing. His notebooks for school were filled with more YouTube notes than coursework. He wasn't disengaged out of laziness. He simply couldn't ignore the feeling that he was sitting in the wrong life. The decision to drop out didn't happen suddenly. It built slowly, like a quiet pressure rising beneath the surface. Jimmy spent nights lying awake in his dorm room, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he was making a terrible mistake. The fear wasn't about failure. It was about disappointing the people who wanted stability for him. His mother, his friends, his teachers. They all wanted him to succeed in the only way they recognized. College meant security. YouTube meant uncertainty. But Jimmy felt the truth deep inside. He couldn't give college his full heart. And if he couldn't give it everything, he shouldn't give it anything. Eventually, he reached a breaking point. Sitting in class one afternoon, surrounded by the soft hum of pencils and murmurs of students settling into their seats, he felt completely out of place. His thoughts were 1,000 miles away, drifting back to the quiet comfort of his computer, back to storyboards, ideas, experiments, and the platform he loved. In that moment, he realized he couldn't keep pretending. The life expected of him and the life he wanted simply didn't match. So he made the decision, quietly, without fanfare, without dramatic announcements. He withdrew from college and returned home, carrying a mix of relief and fear. Telling his family was one of the hardest moments of his young life. He wasn't defiant. He wasn't rebellious. He was simply honest. He explained that he didn't want to waste time in a place where his heart wasn't present. His mother didn't understand at first. How could she? Her son wanted to abandon school for a platform that barely paid pennies and offered no guarantees. But beneath her concern, she recognized something in Jimmy, an unwavering determination she had never seen in him before. He wasn't confused. He wasn't drifting. He was choosing a path intentionally, even if it scared him, and slowly she accepted that he needed to try. Returning home was both liberating and frightening. Without school as a distraction, all Jimmy had was his dream, and the enormous fear that came with it. The world expected results quickly, but YouTube had never moved quickly for him. His channel was small. His income was non-existent. His future was a blank page. Yet each day he woke up with the same gentle determination he had carried since childhood. He sat at his computer, breathed deeply, and began working again. Isolation became his companion. While other people his age attended parties, studied, or explored early adulthood, Jimmy spent most of his time alone. He planned videos, studied analytics, formed theories about the algorithm, and tested ideas that no one else would attempt. There were days when he questioned himself. days when he wondered if he had made the wrong choice. But every time doubt crept in, he returned to one simple truth. Making YouTube videos made him feel alive. He approached content creation like a craftsman, slow and meticulous. He watched his own videos repeatedly, analyzing every second. He researched endlessly, scribbling notes in notebooks, filling margins with concepts and patterns. He reached out to other small creators, sharing ideas late into the night. Each conversation felt like a lifeline, a reminder that he wasn't the only one with an unusual dream. One of the people he connected with was another aspiring creator named Chris. Their early conversations were simple, awkward, and filled with curiosity. Chris didn't fully understand Jimmy's obsession, but he admired his dedication. Together, they began discussing video concepts, laughing over absurd ideas, and sharing insights about content. It was the beginning of a friendship that would quietly shape the future. Isolation never fully disappeared, but Jimmy no longer carried it alone. Meanwhile, his content improved, slowly, quietly, invisibly. His timing sharpened. His ideas grew more creative. His pacing became more effective. But the numbers still moved slowly. Views trickled in. Comments remained sparse. And yet, Jimmy felt progress. Not the kind that came with fanfare or applause, but the kind that came from practice, from patience, from repetition. Every day he woke up and asked himself one question: how can I make the next video better than the last? It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't fun, it was work, gentle, exhausting, obsessive work. But Jimmy embraced it. He knew that compound improvement, however small, would eventually build into something powerful. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't comparing himself to others. He was simply focused on growth. Dropping out of college marked the beginning of a new chapter, but not the end of uncertainty. Jimmy lived with doubt, financial stress, and the weight of choosing an unconventional path. People around him didn't always understand. Some worried for him, others dismissed his dream. But Jimmy kept going, not because he believed he would become famous, but because he believed he could become great at something he loved. And in that small North Carolina room, illuminated once again by the calming glow of a computer screen, Jimmy continued building the foundation for the life ahead of him, quietly, patiently, one video at a time. As Jimmy settled into his new routine, long days of filming, long nights of editing, he didn't expect friendships to form from the quiet world he had chosen. He was used to working alone, thinking alone, and creating alone. For years his process had been solitary, shaped by the hum of his computer and the stillness of his room. Yet life has a gentle way of bringing people together when the time is right. And slowly, almost silently, the core group that would one day define MrBeast's channel began to assemble around him. One of the first connections that grew deeper was with Chris Tyson. Chris was different from Jimmy in all the ways that balanced him. More outgoing, more spontaneous, more willing to try ridiculous things on camera. They weren't instant best friends. The bond developed slowly through small moments, shared jokes, quiet late-night conversations, and simple hours spent brainstorming video ideas. Chris didn't fully understand Jimmy's obsession with analytics and pacing, but he admired it in a way that felt genuine. He liked Jimmy for who he was, quiet, intense, thoughtful, and not for the creator he might someday become. Their early days together were simple. They would sit around a small table or sprawl across a couch, throwing out ideas that ranged from brilliant to absurd. Many of the concepts never made it into videos. Some were impossible. Some were too expensive. Some were just too strange even for them. But these brainstorming sessions built something more important than content. They built trust. Jimmy realized he didn't have to create alone anymore. Chris provided a relaxed energy that softened the tension Jimmy often carried in his shoulders. Then came Chandler, a friend who didn't start as a creator at all. He first joined the group quietly, helping behind the scenes, carrying props, holding cameras, running errands. He had a gentle, easygoing personality that fit naturally into Jimmy's world. At first, he was shy and uncertain on camera, but Jimmy saw something in him that others might have missed, a natural charm that didn't require performance. Chandler had a way of making simple moments feel funny without trying, and when Jimmy finally encouraged him to appear in videos, viewers immediately connected with him. Chandler brought softness into the room wherever he went. He laughed easily, moved calmly, and approached each challenge with a kind of quiet bravery that made him endearing. He didn't try to be the center of attention. He didn't try to be a comedian. He simply was himself, and that was enough. His presence helped Jimmy feel less alone, giving him someone to share both failures and small victories with. Carl entered the picture later, but his arrival completed something important in the group's dynamic. Creative, imaginative, and emotionally perceptive, Carl added a layer of warmth to the team that became especially valuable as the channel grew. He offered perspective when Jimmy got lost in details, grounding him gently with enthusiasm and positivity. Carl understood storytelling instinctively. He saw the emotional core of every video idea, and his unique voice blended with Jimmy's analytical mind in a way that enriched the entire creative process. Each of these friendships grew slowly, shaped by long hours spent filming strange challenges, sitting in cars, eating fast food between takes, or simply talking about life. None of it was flashy. None of it was planned. They bonded the way most meaningful friendships do, through shared struggles, shared laughter, and shared belief in something bigger than themselves. Jimmy wasn't used to letting people into his world, but these friends entered quietly and respectfully, becoming constants in a life filled with uncertainty. Together, they began building small routines that turned into traditions. Filming days often ended with late-night fast food runs, with the group piled into a car, talking about ideas that seemed too big or too risky at the time. They'd laugh about mistakes made during shoots, joke about future videos that felt impossible, and encourage each other in the moments when things didn't work. These nights weren't about content. They were about connection. And quietly, Jimmy realized he was no longer alone. The group's presence changed the energy of the videos. Suddenly, challenges felt more lively. Interactions felt more natural. The camera captured friendships forming in real time, awkward at first, but warm and genuine. Viewers didn't just watch the challenges, they watched them. The boys who laughed too hard at inside jokes, the friends who teased each other lovingly, the young men who were figuring out fame together without losing the softness that defined their early years. Jimmy watched this transformation with both gratitude and quiet amazement. For so long, YouTube had been the thing that separated him from others, his obsession, his escape, his sanctuary. Now it was bringing him closer to people in a way he never expected. His friendships didn't distract him from YouTube. They strengthened him. They grounded him. They gave him a reason to keep going, even on days when he felt overwhelmed or uncertain. These friendships were never built on fame or success. They were built on days when views were low, when money was scarce, when they had nothing but dreams and a camera. And it was in those days, the quieter, humbler days, that their bond became unbreakable. They supported Jimmy through long nights of editing. They showed up for every challenge, even when they weren't sure it would succeed. They believed in him when he struggled to believe in himself. As Jimmy and his friends continued creating, the dynamic between them deepened. Each brought something different to the table: Chris's chaos, Chandler's softness, Carl's creativity, Jimmy's focus. The balance felt natural, almost destined. They learned to read each other's moods, sense when someone needed encouragement, and understand the silent language of stress and exhaustion that came with long filming days. Through all of this, Jimmy remained consistent, quiet, thoughtful, and deeply intentional. But now, His intentionality had a support system. He had friends who celebrated his wins and helped carry his setbacks. He had people who understood the weight of his dream and embraced it as their own. They weren't just part of his channel, they were part of his journey. Their friendship didn't remove Jimmy's isolation completely, but it softened its edges. The long nights still came, the doubt still appeared, and the pressure still rested heavily on his shoulders. Yet now, he had people reminding him that he wasn't carrying everything alone, and that gentle reminder changed something deep within him. The world would soon know them as the MrBeast crew, a team bound by laughter, loyalty, and extraordinary ideas. But before the cameras captured their most iconic moments, before the global challenges and massive budgets, they were simply a group of quiet friends in North Carolina, trying to build something meaningful together. And in those early days, their bond became the heartbeat that would guide everything that followed. The idea behind Jimmy's early challenge videos appeared gradually, shaped by years of small experiments and quiet observations. He had learned that viewers enjoyed watching simple concepts stretched to unusual lengths, and he wondered what would happen if he applied that approach to competitions. Instead of filming himself alone, he imagined bringing friends into the frame and creating events that lasted for hours. The thought felt natural, almost obvious after everything he had tested. It was a small shift, but it opened the door to something entirely new. His first challenge videos were simple and improvised. He drew circles on the ground with chalk, set boundaries with tape, and invited his friends to see who could last the longest. There was no script, no elaborate plan, and no expectations beyond testing an idea. The group laughed between takes, adjusted rules on the spot, and found ways to make the waiting feel entertaining. Even in these early attempts, Jimmy noticed that the dynamic between the participants added warmth to the footage. When he uploaded the first last-to-leave videos, something changed in the analytics that caught his attention. People stayed longer than they did on his previous uploads, and the retention charts dipped more gently across the timeline. Viewers were curious to see who would quit first and how long the challenge would continue. Jimmy studied these patterns closely, feeling a quiet excitement each time he noticed a small improvement. The format was working in a way nothing else had before. As he refined the concept, he realized that these videos offered more than competition. They revealed personalities. Chris joked through the waiting, even during frustrating moments. Chandler struggled but stayed determined, creating unexpected comedic moments. Carl added bursts of creativity and commentary that shaped the mood of the group. The challenges brought out natural interactions that made viewers feel like they knew everyone involved. This sense of familiarity became a subtle but powerful feature of the videos. People weren't just watching tasks or rules. They were watching friendships unfold inside simple competitions. Jimmy recognized that the appeal wasn't in high production value or dramatic twists. It was in the genuine reactions, the patience, and the way ordinary moments became entertaining through connection. The calm pacing of the challenges made viewers feel included, almost as if they were sitting beside the group. With each new upload, Jimmy adjusted small details to strengthen the format. He improved pacing by trimming unnecessary moments while still preserving the natural flow. He found better ways to explain rules, making the videos easier to follow. He tested different lengths for intros, knowing that the first few seconds determined whether someone stayed. These refinements weren't dramatic, but over time they sharpened the structure of the challenges. Jimmy reinvested everything he earned back into making each challenge slightly better. Sometimes he bought basic supplies or props that added variety to the competition. Other times he used his limited earnings to offer small prizes that motivated participants. Even small amounts like $50 or $100 added meaning to the videos. The group understood how much these challenges cost him, and their support made the process feel collaborative. As the videos grew in length and complexity, the filming days became longer. The group waited through afternoons, evenings, and occasional early mornings. All while Jimmy balanced filming and directing. They shared jokes to stay awake, encouraged each other during slow stretches, and found comfort in the routine. Jimmy filmed everything with a steady hand, capturing moments that felt ordinary in real time, but meaningful on camera. The tone of the videos was never forced. The humor came naturally, and the tension grew gently as the hours passed. Jimmy noticed that the challenges allowed viewers to relax while still wanting to know the final outcome. It created a steady, calming curiosity that made the videos ideal for late-night watching. More importantly, it built trust. Viewers felt that what they were watching was real, unfiltered, and sincere. Each upload taught Jimmy something new about how people watched content. He paid attention to which moments sparked engagement and which ones felt slow. He observed how the group's chemistry shaped viewer reactions. He studied how lighting, camera angles, and background noise influenced the final product. Every small insight became part of his growing understanding of effective storytelling. Even as the format grew stronger, Jimmy didn't allow himself to relax. He wanted each challenge to feel distinct, even if the structure remained familiar. He experimented with new rules, different environments, and variations that tested endurance in fresh ways. These changes kept the content engaging without losing the simplicity that made it appealing in the first place. Each improvement felt like another step toward the style he wanted to master. The last-to-leave challenges slowly built the foundation of trust between Jimmy and his audience. Viewers saw the effort behind each video and appreciated the authenticity of the group. They returned not only for the challenges, but for the people in them. Jimmy recognized the importance of this relationship and felt a growing responsibility to maintain the honesty that defined his channel. He understood that trust was fragile and that his work needed to honor it. What began as a small experiment soon became one of the strongest pillars of his channel. The challenges grew more ambitious, the group became more cohesive, and the audience expanded with each upload. Jimmy watched the progression with a calm awareness, grateful for every sign of growth. He wasn't driven by sudden success or grand expectations. He was driven by the steady improvement he saw in the content and in himself. The rise of the challenge videos marked the beginning of a new era for Jimmy. It was the moment when years of quiet effort began to align with the audience's interest. It was the point where creativity and consistency met in a format that made sense for him. And it was where he discovered that the combination of friends, endurance, and authenticity could shape something extraordinary. Money remained one of the quietest challenges in Jimmy's early YouTube journey. His family lived modestly, and there were no extra funds to support ambitious video ideas. Every dollar had to be stretched carefully, and every expense required thought. Jimmy understood these limits clearly and carried them with a calm sense of responsibility. Even when he imagined bigger concepts, he knew he had to work within what he had. Most of his early earnings came from small bursts of ad revenue that appeared unpredictably. Some months brought a few dollars, and other months barely brought anything at all. Jimmy tracked the income closely, studying which videos performed better and why. He treated each bit of revenue as a tool rather than a reward. The moment money arrived, he immediately planned how it could strengthen the next video. Reinvesting his earnings became an unspoken rule he followed without hesitation. If a video earned $20, all 20 were used to buy supplies for the next concept. If he earned $100, he found a way to turn it into a prize or prop that would improve the challenge. He never considered keeping any of the money for himself, even when he needed it. His priority was always to push the content forward, one small step at a time. The financial pressure sometimes weighed on him more than he let others see. There were nights when he sat alone in front of his computer, wondering whether he could continue creating at this pace. He questioned the risks he was taking and whether he was being unrealistic. But each time doubt crept in, he reminded himself of the small improvements he had already made. These signs of progress kept him moving through uncertainty. His friends helped in ways that made the burden feel lighter. Chris, Chandler, and later Carl showed up for shoots without expecting to be paid. They used their time, energy, and personalities to keep the videos alive. The group understood that the channel was still growing and that resources were limited. Their support gave Jimmy reassurance that he wasn't facing the challenges alone. Even with their help, expenses added up quickly. Some challenges required food, equipment, or simple props that exceeded his budget. When that happened, Jimmy adapted with quiet creativity. He repurposed old items from previous videos, borrowed supplies from friends, or adjusted concepts to fit what was possible. These limitations forced him to think resourcefully and taught him how to extract value from simplicity. Small giveaways became one of his biggest financial hurdles. Offering $50 or $100 felt enormous at the time, and he often had to plan weeks ahead to make it possible. But he believed strongly that giving money away added a meaningful emotional layer to his content. He remembered the effect small amounts of money had in his own life and wanted his videos to reflect that sense of impact. Every giveaway came from a place of sincerity. Viewers responded positively to this generosity even when the prizes were modest. They sensed that the money came from real sacrifice, not abundance. The authenticity behind each gift made the challenges feel more heartfelt and personal. Jimmy noticed these reactions and took them as a sign that he was moving in the right direction. He didn't need grand gestures to create connection. The small ones worked just as well. Sponsors eventually began to appear, offering amounts that felt unreal compared to his early earnings. A company might offer $1,000 for a brief mention, and Jimmy would treat it with the same seriousness as any other resource. Instead of saving the money, he immediately invested it back into content. Larger prizes, better props, and more structured challenges became possible. The reinvestment cycle continued, but with slightly more breathing room. His mother watched these developments with cautious hope. She worried about the unpredictability of his income and the long hours he spent working. But she also saw that YouTube gave him purpose and focus. Jimmy wasn't drifting or uncertain. He was building something, even if the world couldn't yet see the full picture. Her support gave him comfort during moments when the financial stress felt overwhelming. The more Jimmy reinvested, the more his channel grew. Views increased gradually and comments became more frequent. Each new video reached slightly more people than the last. These small wins helped Jimmy stay grounded. He didn't celebrate loudly or allow himself to become complacent. He observed the results carefully and used them to refine his next idea. Despite the progress, money remained a delicate balance for a long time. The margin between having enough and falling short remained narrow. Jimmy felt this tension every time he planned a new challenge. Yet, the uncertainty never stopped him from trying. He believed that consistent reinvestment would eventually create momentum strong enough to carry the channel forward. The financial struggles shaped his discipline in lasting ways. They taught him to think intentionally, budget carefully, and prioritize long-term improvement over short-term comfort. These habits became part of his creative identity, guiding him even when resources eventually grew. He never forgot the years when every dollar mattered and every decision shaped the next opportunity. Through this period, Jimmy learned how to stay patient during slow growth and how to rely on effort rather than luck. His commitment remained steady even when he had little to show for it. The combination of limited resources and unwavering focus created a foundation that would support everything he built in the future. And although the world had not yet discovered him, he continued pushing forward with quiet determination. What began as a small, uncertain project gradually developed into a sustainable process. His videos became clearer, his ideas more ambitious, and his audience larger. The foundation was still fragile, but it was growing stronger each month. Jimmy continued reinvesting, refining, and learning, trusting that each step, no matter how small, was bringing him closer to the creator he hoped to become. As Jimmy's challenge videos continued to grow, so did the financial demands behind them. Every new idea required resources, and every resource demanded another round of careful planning. His ad revenue remained unpredictable, fluctuating from one month to the next without warning. Jimmy watched these numbers closely, always balancing hope with caution. He knew each dollar had to be used wisely. Even when he earned slightly more than usual, the money never stayed long. He immediately looked for ways to turn it into a new giveaway or a more engaging challenge. His friends noticed how quickly he spent his earnings, but Jimmy never saw it as reckless. To him, money was a tool for creating moments that viewers would remember. Each reinvestment felt meaningful, even if it left him with nothing afterward. Giving money away created a sense of tension inside him that he rarely expressed. He felt proud when he helped someone, but the cost weighed heavily on him. He often wondered whether he was pushing himself too far or making his life unnecessarily difficult. Yet each time those thoughts appeared, he remembered how much joy those moments brought to his audience. That joy made the risk feel worthwhile. The emotional weight of generosity shaped his approach to every video. He knew firsthand what it felt like to worry about money or to stretch each dollar as far as possible. Helping others gave him a sense of purpose that made the long hours and uncertainty feel lighter. His viewers responded warmly, sensing the sincerity behind the gestures. This connection encouraged Jimmy to continue giving, even when his finances made it difficult. As the giveaways grew in scale, Jimmy tried to be transparent with his viewers. He talked openly about how he reinvested everything and how little he kept for himself. The honesty made people trust him even more. Viewers understood that he wasn't using money to show off or create unrealistic expectations. He was using it to build content that felt genuine and heartfelt, rooted in real emotion rather than spectacle. Each giveaway deepened Jimmy's understanding of what people valued. Some prize winners reacted with excitement, while others expressed relief or gratitude. These responses reminded him that simple acts could have a significant impact. He began designing challenges with those moments in mind, wanting to create experiences that felt thoughtful rather than flashy. This approach helped shape the unique tone of his content. The strain of managing money never fully went away. Jimmy had to balance reinvestment with basic living expenses, often choosing to prioritize the channel over his own comfort. He accepted these sacrifices calmly, knowing they were temporary steps toward a long-term goal. His friends respected this dedication and supported him through the difficult periods, offering help whenever possible. Despite the stress, Jimmy found comfort in the structure he created. He developed habits for tracking budgets, planning expenses, and estimating the profit margin of each video. These routines gave him a sense of control in a world where income was unpredictable. They also helped him identify opportunities to grow without taking unnecessary risks. Jimmy's willingness to give when he had so little became one of the defining traits of his early career. Viewers admired the generosity, but only he understood the pressure behind each decision. Still, he continued pushing forward, convinced that reinvestment was the only way to build something meaningful. This belief guided every choice he made during this period. The emotional and financial challenges of early reinvestment shaped Jimmy's mindset permanently. They taught him discipline, patience, and resilience. They also prepared him for the larger obstacles that would appear as his channel continued to grow. Even though he didn't have much at the time, he held on to the belief that each sacrifice was bringing him closer to the creator he wanted to become. Through these experiences, Jimmy built a foundation of generosity that would define his future work. He learned how to give with intention and create videos that made people feel seen and appreciated. And as his confidence grew, he began imagining larger challenges that went beyond simple prizes. These dreams would soon guide him toward the next chapter of his journey. As Jimmy's videos continued to improve, he began attracting attention from small sponsors who noticed his steady growth. The first offers were modest and came from companies willing to take a chance on a creator who approached content with unusual dedication. Jimmy read each email carefully, recognizing how significant these opportunities could be. A sponsorship meant he could fund bigger prizes and more ambitious challenges. It also meant viewers would see an immediate increase in production value. When the first payments arrived, Jimmy felt a mixture of relief and responsibility. The money was more than anything he had earned previously, yet he refused to keep any of it for himself. He knew the funds needed to go straight into the next video. Larger budgets allowed him to experiment with different types of challenges that had once been impossible. Each new idea pushed the channel one step further toward the standard he envisioned. As the videos grew in scale, so did the demands of production. Challenges became longer, props became larger, and coordination required more planning. Jimmy often spent entire days filming and entire nights editing. Sleep became irregular, and meals were often squeezed between long stretches of work. Despite the intensity, he remained calm and focused, always prioritizing the quality of the content over comfort. The studio he used during this time wasn't glamorous or spacious. It was a simple workspace assembled from whatever resources he could gather. Sometimes he filmed in borrowed rooms, garages, or empty warehouses. Other times he created makeshift sets with minimal supplies. He slept in the studio whenever shoots ran long, using blankets or old couches to rest for a few hours before starting again. The space became a second home filled with equipment, notes, and half-finished ideas. Jimmy's friends supported him through the demanding schedule. They stayed late to help finish challenges, moved heavy props, and offered encouragement during long filming sessions. Their presence gave the studio a sense of warmth, even when everyone was tired. Each friend contributed in their own way, adding humor, energy, or creativity that shaped the final video. Jimmy valued these contributions and understood how important the group had become to the overall process. With every new sponsorship, Jimmy aimed to deliver a better experience for viewers. He studied how audiences reacted to different prize amounts and challenge styles. He tested pacing to keep videos engaging without overwhelming the natural interactions. The improvements added a sense of consistency to the channel, making each upload feel slightly more refined than the one before it. His focus remained steady: create enjoyable content while investing every resource back into the videos. The pressure to maintain this momentum was always present. Jimmy knew that viewers expected each challenge to feel larger than the last. He also knew he needed to manage resources carefully to avoid overspending. Balancing growth with sustainability became an important skill during this period. He approached each decision with patience, analyzing data and planning budgets before moving forward. Even as the workload expanded, Jimmy never lost sight of why he started the channel. He remembered the early days of filming alone in his bedroom, dreaming of ideas that felt too big to achieve. Now, with a small team and growing support, he felt grateful to watch those dreams slowly become possible. The studio, though humble, represented years of quiet effort and countless hours of learning. Working long hours eventually became routine. Jimmy often edited until sunrise, then slept briefly before continuing with new tasks. The cycle was exhausting, but it filled him with a sense of progress that kept him motivated. He understood that building something meaningful required persistence and sacrifice. Each completed video was a reminder that the effort was worthwhile. The studio evolved into a place of creativity and discipline. Whiteboards filled with challenge ideas lined the walls. Shelves were stacked with props from previous videos. Cables, lights, and cameras were scattered across the floor. It wasn't organized or polished, but it was functional. More importantly, it was a space where Jimmy and his team felt free to explore ideas without limitation. As weeks turned into months, the challenges became more structured. Jimmy learned how to manage time during long shoots, direct participants effectively, and keep the energy balanced. He noticed that viewers responded well to challenges that combined endurance with friendly competition. This insight shaped the direction of the channel, guiding him toward concepts that highlighted creativity and teamwork. Jimmy's reinvestment strategy grew stronger as his resources expanded. He viewed sponsorships not as income, but as opportunities to create new experiences. Each challenge he produced reflected the lessons he had learned from earlier struggles. The generosity that defined his content remained at the core of every video. Whether he gave away a few dollars or a large prize, the intention was the same: to create something meaningful for viewers and participants alike. Sleeping at the studio symbolized his commitment during this phase of growth. It showed the lengths he was willing to go to improve each video. He accepted the discomfort as part of the journey and rarely complained about it. His quiet determination shaped the culture of the group, encouraging everyone to give their best effort. The long nights became a shared experience that strengthened their bond. Jimmy understood that this period was temporary but necessary. He viewed each challenge, late-night edit, and reinvested dollar as a building block for the future. His calm persistence helped him navigate the unpredictable nature of content creation. And with every improvement, he felt closer to the vision he carried quietly within himself. As Jimmy's channel continued to grow, he became increasingly focused on improving the quality of every video. He no longer viewed content as a simple sequence of clips, but as a complete experience that needed careful shaping. He watched other creators closely, analyzing why certain videos kept viewers watching longer. Each new upload became an opportunity to test a better structure, cleaner pacing, or stronger storytelling. His attention to detail deepened in ways that surprised even him. Filming became more demanding as his expectations rose. Jimmy insisted on retaking scenes until they felt natural, even if the difference was barely noticeable. He would adjust phrasing, shift camera angles, and repeat actions multiple times to capture the exact energy he wanted. The process required patience from everyone involved, but Jimmy remained calm and focused throughout. He understood that small improvements added up to meaningful results. Days on set grew longer as challenges became larger and more complex. Filming often stretched into late evenings, with the group pushing through fatigue to complete each idea. Jimmy's determination helped maintain morale, even when exhaustion set in. He encouraged the team to take short breaks when needed, but always guided them back to the goal. His leadership style was steady and patient, relying on quiet persistence rather than pressure. Jimmy rarely showed frustration, even when things went wrong. If a prop broke or a scene didn't work, he simply recalculated and tried again. His calm response helped the team stay composed during setbacks. He treated mistakes as part of the process, reminding everyone that progress came from consistent effort. This mindset helped him maintain a healthy balance between ambition and patience. Editing became an extension of his perfectionism. Jimmy reviewed footage carefully, often watching the same clip repeatedly to identify subtle improvements. He adjusted timing, removed unnecessary moments, and refined transitions until the video felt seamless. These long editing sessions occasionally lasted until morning, with Jimmy staying awake to ensure every detail aligned with his vision. The work was demanding, but it strengthened his confidence in his own instincts. The physical strain of long shoots accumulated over time. Jimmy often felt tired, but he rarely slowed down. He carried equipment, assisted with setups, and stayed actively involved in every part of production. His willingness to contribute to manual tasks helped build trust within the group. They saw that he never asked anyone to do something he wouldn't do himself, and that example motivated them to work just as hard. His friends noticed how much pressure he placed on himself. They observed how he analyzed each video with a seriousness that seemed unusual for someone his age. At times, they tried to lighten the mood with jokes or casual conversations. Jimmy appreciated these efforts and often paused to share a laugh before returning to his work. The group dynamic kept the environment supportive, even during stressful days. Despite the challenges, Jimmy found satisfaction in pushing his limits. Each completed video felt like a small accomplishment, even if viewers never saw the effort behind the scenes. He understood that success required more than ideas. It required execution. And he was willing to repeat tasks, revise plans, and refine concepts until the results matched the picture he carried in his mind. His approach to quality set his channel apart from others. While many creators relied on spontaneity or minimal editing, Jimmy believed in thorough preparation and polished execution. He wanted his videos to feel clean, intentional, and engaging from start to finish. This commitment made his content more reliable and encouraged viewers to return regularly. It also shaped his identity as a creator who valued excellence. Jimmy's perfectionism grew not from ego, but from curiosity. He constantly searched for ways to improve, often studying his older videos to see what had changed. The process helped him identify patterns that worked and habits that needed adjustment. Each discovery became a building block in his creative evolution. The more he learned, the more motivated he felt to continue refining his craft. Physical exhaustion became a familiar companion during this period. Jimmy accepted it as part of the commitment required to create meaningful content. He managed fatigue by focusing on the progress he made each day. Small victories, like capturing a clean shot or finalizing a challenging segment, gave him enough energy to continue. His persistence became a defining part of his style, shaping the channel's work ethic. The team developed similar habits as they spent more time working alongside him. They learned how to navigate long filming days with patience and resilience. Jimmy never demanded perfection from them, but his example encouraged everyone to give their best. They worked together quietly, respecting the effort required to bring each video to life. This shared understanding strengthened their bond and improved the overall quality of the content. Jimmy's relentless commitment to quality created long-term stability for the channel. Viewers came to expect consistent improvement, and each upload reinforced their trust. Even when a video required dozens of takes or long hours of editing, Jimmy focused on the experience it would create. He believed that effort showed through the final product, even if the audience never saw the work behind the scenes. Through this period, Jimmy learned how to balance ambition with patience. He gained confidence in his decision-making and recognized the importance of pacing himself. Although he pushed himself hard, he also understood that sustainable growth required steady progress rather than rapid leaps. This perspective helped him stay grounded as the channel continued expanding. By repeating takes, refining ideas, and maintaining strict standards, Jimmy established a foundation for future projects. He knew that larger challenges would require even more dedication and consistency. His willingness to put in the necessary work prepared him for the increasing demands ahead. The lessons he learned during this period guided him through the next stages of his creative journey. As his perfectionism deepened, Jimmy remained aware of the quiet responsibility he carried. He wanted to create content that viewers could rely on, enjoy, and return to time after time. This intention became a core element of his work, shaping every decision he made. And as he continued refining his craft, he moved closer to the creator he had always hoped to become. As the pressure of constant improvement grew, Jimmy found himself confronting the emotional toll that came with his pace. He worked long hours, often stretching deep into the early morning without realizing how late it had become. His schedule had little room for breaks or personal time, creating long stretches where the outside world faded into the background. While he enjoyed the creative process, the intensity left him feeling drained. The quiet moments between projects sometimes revealed how isolated he felt. Jimmy rarely discussed the stress he carried, even with his closest friends. He believed he needed to stay strong for the channel and for the team depending on him. Instead of sharing his worries, he buried them beneath new ideas and more work. This habit made it difficult for others to see when he was struggling. His calm demeanor hid the exhaustion building beneath the surface. Over time, the emotional weight became harder to ignore. There were days when the pressure felt overwhelming. The responsibility to maintain steady growth, meet rising expectations, and constantly improve created a quiet tension he could feel in his chest. He sometimes experienced moments where small setbacks felt larger than they were. If a video underperformed or a plan fell apart, he questioned whether he was doing enough. These doubts never stopped him from working, but they stayed with him longer than he liked to admit. The loneliness of long editing nights intensified the emotional strain. While the team supported him during filming, the post-production work often fell entirely on his shoulders. Hours passed in silence as he edited clips, reviewed footage, and reworked scenes until they matched his standards. Even when he enjoyed the process, he felt disconnected from others. The repetitive nature of editing made him aware of how few people understood the amount of effort involved. Jimmy developed strategies to manage these difficult moments. Sometimes he stepped away from the computer and took short walks to clear his mind. Other times he allowed himself to rest for an hour before returning to the project. These breaks helped, but they couldn't fully alleviate the mental fatigue that came with his work routine. He understood that his pace wasn't sustainable forever, yet he struggled to slow down. His commitment to the channel made him feel responsible for keeping momentum alive. His friends recognized when the workload became too heavy, even if Jimmy didn't say anything. They offered help with tasks, reminded him to take breaks, and tried to lift his spirits during stressful periods. Their support didn't fix everything, but it softened the edges of his struggles. Jimmy valued these gestures deeply and often felt grateful for the quiet reassurance they provided. The group's presence reminded him that he didn't have to face everything alone. Despite the challenges, Jimmy maintained a grounded perspective on his mental health. He acknowledged the difficulty of managing stress, but remained confident in his ability to adapt. He learned how to recognize early signs of burnout before they became overwhelming. When necessary, he adjusted his schedule or delegated tasks to prevent himself from becoming overworked. These small adjustments improved his balance, even if only slightly. There were occasional breaking points that he kept to himself, moments when he felt exhausted, discouraged, or uncertain about the future. During these times, he retreated into quiet reflection, trying to understand what triggered his emotions. He reminded himself of how far he had come and how much he still wanted to achieve. These reflections helped him regain stability and return to his work with a clearer mindset. Each breaking point taught him something new about resilience. Over time, Jimmy learned that creativity required emotional energy, not just physical effort. He realized that pushing himself too hard made it harder to generate new ideas. To protect his creativity, he began giving himself space to think, rest, and reflect. This shift didn't reduce his ambition, but allowed him to approach challenges more thoughtfully. His work benefited from this balance, even if it took time to develop. Jimmy also discovered that sharing small moments with his friends helped ease his stress. Whether they grabbed a quick meal together or laughed about a filming mishap, these interactions restored a sense of normalcy. They reminded him that life existed outside deadlines and view counts. These simple, ordinary experiences became important to his emotional well-being, even when the pressure remained. As the channel continued growing, Jimmy's understanding of mental health deepened. He recognized that success brought new challenges, including heavier responsibility and increased expectations. But he also understood that he didn't have to carry everything alone. His team, his experience, and his discipline provided support whenever he began to feel overwhelmed. This awareness made him more patient with himself. Quiet perseverance became a defining part of his identity during this period. He learned how to navigate difficult emotions without letting them control his decisions. He also learned how to maintain creativity during stressful times by protecting his mental energy. These lessons helped him stay consistent, even when circumstances were challenging. They also shaped the way he approached leadership within the team. Jimmy's ability to balance mental strain with quiet determination helped him progress toward larger goals. He knew tougher challenges lay ahead, but he felt more prepared for them. His journey taught him that growth required emotional strength as much as technical skill. By staying calm and grounded, he found a way to manage the pressure of rising expectations without sacrificing his vision. As Jimmy's main channel continued to grow, he began noticing how many ideas he couldn't fit into the challenge format. There were creative concepts that didn't require large sets or endurance tasks, and there were moments of humor that deserved space outside the main uploads. Instead of forcing everything into one place, he considered expanding into additional channels. The idea felt ambitious, but he approached it carefully, just as he had with every step before. He wanted the growth to feel purposeful, rather than overwhelming. The first major expansion was MrBeast Gaming, a channel built around lighthearted gameplay and group interactions. Jimmy understood that gaming provided a different kind of entertainment, less structured, more relaxed, and heavily driven by personality. It allowed the team to be themselves while still creating content viewers enjoyed. Unlike the main channel, gaming videos offered a calmer environment where stakes were lower and creativity flowed easily. The balance between structure and spontaneity made the channel feel refreshing. Creating the gaming channel also helped the group develop their on-screen identities. Chris, Chandler, Carl, and the rest of the team were able to show sides of themselves that didn't always appear in challenge videos. Their humor felt natural, and the conversations unfolded without pressure. Jimmy recognized that viewers appreciated these authentic interactions. Instead of trying to script moments, he let the dynamics grow organically. The simplicity of the format made it easier to produce while still maintaining quality. Encouraged by the positive response, Jimmy expanded again with MrBeast Reacts. This channel focused on short, engaging reactions to interesting content. The concept was straightforward, but it allowed Jimmy and his team to share their thoughts and humor in a more casual way. The low production demands meant they could upload consistently without compromising the main channel's quality. It provided viewers with frequent content while giving the team creative variety. The most meaningful expansion came with MrBeast Philanthropy, a channel centered around helping those in need. Jimmy had always incorporated generosity into his content, but he wanted a space dedicated specifically to giving back. The Philanthropy channel allowed him to highlight causes, support communities, and show viewers the impact of their support. It also gave him a way to separate large-scale charity efforts from entertainment-focused content. This distinction helped maintain clarity while expanding his mission. Launching multiple channels was not just about increasing output. It was about creating structure within his growing brand. Jimmy treated each channel as its own entity with a distinct purpose. He developed clear guidelines for tone, pacing, and content style. This intentional separation made it easier to manage growth and ensure consistency. Each channel supported the others while maintaining its own identity. The expansion required Jimmy to trust his team more than ever before. He delegated tasks, allowed others to take leadership roles, and encouraged creativity from every member. This shift helped the team grow professionally and strengthened their loyalty to the overall vision. Jimmy remained closely involved, but he understood that the brand's success would depend on collective effort. His willingness to share responsibility demonstrated confidence in the people around him. Despite the rapid growth, Jimmy moved carefully at every step. He analyzed data from each channel to ensure they were progressing at a healthy pace. If a channel underperformed, he adjusted its strategy. If a new idea emerged, he tested it before committing fully. This thoughtful approach prevented burnout and maintained the high standards viewers expected. It also ensured that growth never felt chaotic or rushed. The additional channels also helped diversify the brand's content. They offered different experiences that appealed to various audiences, increasing the overall reach. Some viewers preferred gaming, while others enjoyed reactions or philanthropic efforts. This variety strengthened viewer loyalty and created a more stable foundation for long-term success. Jimmy recognized that diversification protected the brand from depending too heavily on one type of content. As each channel gained momentum, the workload increased significantly. Jimmy adapted by building a more organized workflow, creating schedules, and establishing routines that supported consistent output. He hired editors, writers, and support staff who helped streamline the process. These additions allowed the team to maintain quality across all channels without spreading themselves too thin. The structure became essential as the brand continued to grow. Despite the expanding responsibilities, Jimmy remained grounded. He continued focusing on storytelling and entertainment, remembering that viewers connected with authenticity. He avoided rushing into trends or shortcuts that could weaken the brand's integrity. Every decision reflected his long-term vision rather than short-term gains. This consistency helped maintain viewer trust during the transition from a single-channel creator to a multi-channel operation. The development of new channels represented a major turning point for Jimmy. It marked the beginning of a larger, more organized brand that extended beyond one format. The expansion allowed him to explore new ideas, amplify his impact, and involve his team more deeply. It also set the stage for challenges that would require even greater coordination and creativity in the future. Through thoughtful planning and steady growth, Jimmy transformed his channel into a small empire. His calm, focused approach helped him manage the increasing complexity without losing sight of what made his content special. Each new channel became a piece of a larger vision, one that would continue evolving as his creativity expanded. As Jimmy expanded his channels, he began thinking more seriously about how to use his platform for meaningful impact. He had always included generosity in his content, but he felt there was potential for something bigger. The idea of building a dedicated philanthropy channel began forming quietly in his mind. He wanted a place where giving could exist without the pressure of traditional entertainment. This space would focus on real needs and real change. When he launched Beast Philanthropy, he approached it with careful intention. The channel would be run as a non-profit, with proceeds directed entirely toward charitable efforts. Jimmy wanted every dollar to help someone, whether through food distribution, housing support, or direct financial assistance. The concept required new structures, new staff, and new systems for managing donations. It was a meaningful responsibility that he accepted calmly and thoughtfully. The early days of the philanthropy channel were both exciting and intimidating. Jimmy understood that helping others required consistency and planning, not just inspiration. He studied how existing charities operated, learning about logistics, expenses, and long-term sustainability. These lessons helped him shape a model that balanced transparency with impact. His team worked closely with him to ensure every decision supported the mission. Despite his confidence in the concept, Jimmy carried quiet doubts about whether he was ready to take on such a large responsibility. He worried about making mistakes that could affect people's lives. The pressure to deliver meaningful results weighed on him more heavily than typical content creation. He spent long evenings reviewing plans, thinking through potential challenges, and adjusting budgets. His calm demeanor remained steady, but he felt the weight of the mission behind the scenes. Working on the Philanthropy channel strengthened his awareness of the struggles people faced. Distributing food, assisting families, and hearing personal stories made the mission more real than he anticipated. These experiences grounded him and reminded him why he wanted to expand in the first place. Helping others wasn't about content. It was about making real impact. This understanding shaped the tone of every philanthropic project. Jimmy relied heavily on his team as the channel grew. They helped coordinate deliveries, communicate with organizations, and ensure that resources reached the right people. Their support allowed him to focus on planning and strategy while trusting the execution to capable hands. The group took the mission seriously, recognizing how meaningful their work had become. Their combined effort helped the channel expand quickly and responsibly. As the Philanthropy channel gained momentum, viewers responded with overwhelming positivity. Many appreciated the transparency and the commitment to direct impact. Others were inspired to donate or volunteer in their own communities. Jimmy noticed how these responses strengthened the bond between his audience and the brand. The Philanthropy channel wasn't just content. It became a shared mission that united viewers around a common purpose. Running a nonprofit presented new challenges that differed from traditional content creation. Jimmy had to balance emotional responsibility with logistical practicality. Some situations required immediate action, while others demanded long-term planning. He learned how to assess needs carefully and allocate resources efficiently. These experiences taught him how to make decisions with clarity and patience, even under pressure. Jimmy also understood the importance of keeping the Philanthropy channel distinct from the entertainment channels. He wanted viewers to see the work as genuine rather than performative. This separation reinforced trust and clarified the intentions behind each project. His careful approach helped maintain the integrity of the mission while still producing meaningful videos that documented the process. Behind the public success, Jimmy occasionally questioned whether he was doing enough. He felt driven by a quiet desire to expand the reach of his philanthropic efforts. He imagined building larger networks, distributing greater resources, and supporting more communities. These thoughts motivated him to think beyond short-term projects and consider long-term initiatives. His ambitions grew with each successful outcome. The Philanthropy channel also deepened his connection to his audience. Viewers saw a side of Jimmy that reflected sincerity and compassion. They appreciated his willingness to direct his resources toward helping others, rather than solely building his own success. This authenticity became a defining quality of his brand and influenced how people viewed his future content. It reinforced the idea that he wasn't just creating videos, he was building a legacy. Working on philanthropy projects brought new meaning to Jimmy's long hours and careful planning. The emotional impact of helping others provided motivation that extended beyond analytics or view counts. These experiences gave him a sense of purpose that strengthened his resilience during difficult times. Even when challenges appeared, he remained focused on the mission he had created. The development of Beast Philanthropy represented a major milestone in Jimmy's journey. It showcased his ability to transform growth into impact and creativity into meaningful action. Through patient planning, quiet dedication, and a strong support team, he established a platform that reached far beyond entertainment. This chapter marked the beginning of a mission that would continue influencing every part of his work. As Jimmy's content continued evolving, the channel began reaching viewers far beyond the United States. His videos were simple in concept but universal in appeal, making them easy to enjoy in any language. people around the world connected with the sincerity of his challenges and the generosity woven into every upload. The channel's rising view counts reflected this expanding reach. Jimmy noticed the shift and approached it with thoughtful curiosity. International viewers began leaving comments in multiple languages, sharing excitement about each challenge. Some related to the endurance required, while others admired the group's humor and teamwork. Jimmy read these messages during late nights and felt a sense of connection he hadn't expected. His small ideas, once filmed in modest locations, were now traveling across continents. The global audience created a new level of responsibility that he took seriously. As viewership increased, the scale of growth became more visible. Videos reached millions of viewers within hours of uploading, and subscriber milestones arrived faster than he could process them. While he appreciated the success, Jimmy remained focused on improving his content. He understood that global attention came with higher expectations. His calm approach helped him stay grounded, despite the sudden surge in visibility. The international growth brought new opportunities as well. Companies from around the world expressed interest in partnerships, and creators from different countries reached out for collaborations. Jimmy evaluated each opportunity carefully. He wanted to ensure any partnership aligned with his values and wouldn't compromise the authenticity of the channel. This selective mindset helped him maintain consistency despite the rapid expansion. Jimmy also recognized how diverse his audience had become. Different cultures responded to different aspects of his content, and he studied these patterns closely. Some regions favored long endurance challenges, while others preferred large-scale competitions. Understanding these preferences allowed him to design videos that appealed to a wider audience without sacrificing his signature style. His attention to detail helped maintain global engagement. Translating his videos into multiple languages became an important part of the channel's evolution. Subtitles, dubs, and localized thumbnails helped international viewers feel included. Jimmy invested time and resources into these improvements, ensuring the quality matched the original content. This step helped the channel grow in regions where English wasn't widely spoken. It also reinforced his commitment to accessibility and inclusivity. As the audience expanded, so did the impact of Jimmy's generosity. Viewers from around the world shared stories of how his videos inspired acts of kindness. Some individuals donated to charity, while others helped neighbors or volunteered in their communities. These responses made the channel feel larger than entertainment. Jimmy saw how positivity could spread and felt encouraged to continue expanding his mission. Global recognition also brought challenges. Increased visibility invited criticism, higher expectations, and more pressure to innovate. Jimmy handled these challenges calmly, focusing on what he could control. He reminded himself that growth came with complexity and that maintaining balance was essential. His steady mindset helped him navigate the unpredictable nature of viral success. The team also felt the effects of the growing audience. They became more recognizable, both online and in public. While they enjoyed meeting viewers, the attention sometimes felt overwhelming. Jimmy supported them by creating environments where they could work comfortably and stay focused. He understood that the team's comfort played a significant role in maintaining quality. Their well-being remained a top priority. Despite the rapid growth, the group remained close-knit. They relied on each other during demanding production schedules and celebrated milestones together. Jimmy valued these shared experiences and recognized how important the team's unity had become. Their strong relationships helped them stay grounded as the channel grew more complex. The emotional support within the group became a steady anchor. The phenomenon surrounding the channel highlighted how far Jimmy had come from his early days of uncertain experiments. Yet he didn't dwell on the contrast between past and present. Instead, he focused on the work ahead and the opportunities that global reach created. He continued to analyze data, refine strategies, and explore ideas that aligned with his vision. His calm approach allowed him to navigate success without becoming overwhelmed by it. Jimmy's global impact marked a major milestone in his journey. His content was now influencing people across cultures, languages, and continents. He viewed this expansion not as a destination, but as a sign that his message resonated universally. The growing audience strengthened his motivation to continue creating content that inspired positivity. This period represented a new chapter, one defined by scale, influence, and quiet responsibility. As the channel's global audience expanded, Jimmy found himself entering a new level of visibility. People recognized him in public more often, approaching him with excitement and gratitude. While he appreciated these interactions, they also made him aware of how much his life had changed. Fame brought new attention that felt unfamiliar at times. He adjusted gradually, learning how to remain patient and calm in every situation. The growing recognition came with a sense of responsibility. Viewers of all ages looked up to him, drawing inspiration from his creativity and generosity. Jimmy understood that his words and actions carried influence even when he spoke casually. This awareness encouraged him to think carefully about how he communicated both online and in person. He wanted to set an example that reflected sincerity and kindness. It became another quiet motivation, guiding his decisions. With increased visibility came increased expectations for his behavior. People formed opinions about him based on brief moments or incomplete information. Jimmy learned that not everyone would understand the full context behind his choices. Instead of responding defensively, he focused on maintaining authenticity. He reminded himself that staying true to his values mattered more than pleasing everyone. This mindset helped him navigate public scrutiny with calm consistency. The pressure to maintain positivity grew alongside his influence. Jimmy wanted his content to inspire and uplift viewers, but he also felt the strain of always being perceived as a role model. There were days when the expectations felt heavy, especially during periods of personal stress. He learned to separate his private challenges from his public presence without losing honesty. Balancing these aspects of his life became an ongoing learning process. Despite the complexities of fame, Jimmy remained grounded by staying close to the people he trusted. His friends offered a sense of normalcy that fame couldn't disrupt. They joked with him the same way they always had and treated him no differently because of his success. Their friendships reminded him of his early days creating videos simply for fun. This familiarity helped him maintain perspective even as the world around him changed. Jimmy also used his work ethic as a way to stay focused. He continued studying analytics, planning videos, and refining ideas with the same intensity as before. The routine of creative work provided stability and kept him anchored to his long-term goals. Instead of becoming distracted by fame, he directed his attention toward growth and improvement. His steady approach made the transition easier to manage. At times, Jimmy felt the need to step back from the pressure of public expectations. He allowed himself quiet moments to reflect on the direction of his content and the impact he wanted to make. These periods of reflection helped him understand what mattered most. They also reminded him to care for his mental well-being. By creating space to think, he learned how to maintain balance during overwhelming periods. He discovered that being a role model did not require perfection. Instead, it required consistency, humility, and a willingness to learn. Jimmy embraced this understanding and allowed it to guide his interactions. He acknowledged his imperfections while striving to improve. This openness made him more relatable to viewers and reduced the pressure he felt to appear flawless. It also reinforced his commitment to authenticity. The influence he carried extended far beyond entertainment. Teachers showed his videos in classrooms to demonstrate creativity and teamwork. Parents encouraged their children to watch his philanthropic projects as examples of generosity. Jimmy took these moments seriously, understanding the long-term effect they could have. He hoped his content would inspire positive actions rather than unrealistic expectations. This responsibility strengthened his focus on meaningful storytelling. Working with a global audience also required him to consider cultural differences. He learned that humor, communication styles, and reactions varied across regions. Instead of trying to appeal to everyone simultaneously, he relied on universal themes like kindness and perseverance. These values connected viewers across cultures and allowed the channel to grow naturally. Jimmy approached this diversity with curiosity and respect, making sure his content remained inclusive. As his influence expanded, Jimmy's internal commitment to staying grounded became stronger. He stayed connected to his roots, remembering the years when he created videos with minimal resources. These memories reminded him that success was built on persistence rather than attention. They helped him remain humble as the world began to notice him more frequently. His calm personality allowed him to maintain clarity throughout the process. The team around him also contributed to his stability. They supported him during stressful moments and celebrated milestones together. Their shared history created a foundation of trust that fame couldn't disrupt. Jimmy valued this connection, knowing that their support played a crucial role in his well-being. It allowed him to remain focused and balanced despite rising expectations. As the channel expanded, Jimmy realized he could no longer manage every task on his own. The scale of production required coordinated effort, and he began building a team that could help bring his ideas to life. He approached this transition carefully, understanding the importance of choosing people who aligned with his values. The team needed to be reliable, creative, and willing to embrace long hours when needed. Jimmy knew that leadership meant more than giving instructions. It meant creating an environment where everyone could succeed. Jimmy's leadership style developed naturally over time. He didn't raise his voice or demand perfection from others. Instead, he guided the team through calm direction and clear expectations. His approach emphasized respect and collaboration, making the environment feel supportive rather than stressful. Team members trusted him because he demonstrated the same work ethic he expected from them. This quiet authority became a defining aspect of the workplace culture. He understood that each person brought unique strengths to the group. Some were skilled at editing, while others excelled at organizing shoots or generating creative ideas. Jimmy encouraged everyone to lean into their strengths while providing help when they needed it. This balanced approach allowed the team to grow together rather than individually. The diversity of skills made the workflow smoother and improved the overall quality of each project. Building trust within the team required consistency. Jimmy made sure to follow through on his commitments and communicate with clarity. When mistakes occurred, he focused on problem-solving rather than blame. This attitude helped create a sense of safety where people felt comfortable experimenting with ideas. The team learned that effort and honesty mattered more than flawless execution. Over time, this trust created strong bonds that supported the channel's growth. As production demands increased, Jimmy introduced structured workflows to keep projects moving efficiently. Schedules, task lists, and planning meetings became essential parts of the process. These systems helped the team stay organized during complex challenges. While the structure added more responsibility, it also reduced chaos during filming. The group learned how to coordinate smoothly, making large-scale projects feel manageable. Jimmy remained attentive to the team's morale. He understood that long filming hours could be tiring and made an effort to keep the atmosphere relaxed. Small breaks, shared meals, and moments of humor helped maintain balance during demanding shoots. He encouraged open communication, allowing team members to express concerns or suggestions freely. This openness strengthened their connection and helped prevent burnout. Despite his calm demeanor, Jimmy took leadership seriously. He paid attention to creative details, financial needs, and logistical planning. He also monitored how well the team was adapting to new responsibilities. When challenges arose, he handled them quietly, focusing on solutions rather than stress. His steady presence reassured the group during unpredictable or demanding periods. Leadership became a natural extension of his work, rather than a separate role. The expanding team also required Jimmy to step into mentorship. He taught newer members how to approach storytelling, pacing, and high-quality content creation. He shared insights from his years of studying YouTube analytics and encouraged others to develop their own creative instincts. This mentorship created a culture of learning that strengthened the team's skill set. Each member became more capable with time, adding depth to the brand's content. Jimmy valued collaboration and made sure the team felt involved in the creative process. He welcomed suggestions, even if they challenged his initial ideas. Sometimes these contributions led to improved concepts or unexpected solutions. Encouraging input showed team members that their voices mattered. It also fostered an environment where creativity flowed more freely. Jimmy believed that the best ideas emerged from collective effort. As the team grew larger, Jimmy worked to maintain the comfortable atmosphere they had built together. He avoided unnecessary hierarchy, keeping the structure flat and accessible. This approach allowed everyone to feel equally invested in the channel's success. It also encouraged teamwork rather than competition. People supported one another because they shared a common vision grounded in respect and hard work. The experience of leading a team taught Jimmy how to balance responsibility with trust. He learned that effective leadership required patience, clarity, and empathy. He also discovered that delegating tasks didn't reduce his role, it strengthened the entire operation. Sharing responsibility helped the channel scale without sacrificing quality. The growing team made the workload manageable and allowed larger ideas to become reality. Through this period, Jimmy grew more confident in his leadership abilities. He remained humble, recognizing that he was still learning. At the same time, he understood the importance of guiding the team with intention. His calm presence helped maintain stability during busy periods, while his quiet dedication set the tone for everyone around him. Leading others became one of the most meaningful parts of his journey. The culture Jimmy built reflected his values: hard work, kindness, and a focus on continuous improvement. Each team member contributed to this environment, creating a workplace that balanced productivity with positivity. As they continued producing large-scale videos, the strength of this culture helped them stay united. The team's cohesion became one of the channel's greatest assets and a foundation for future growth. As the team continued growing, Jimmy encountered challenges that came naturally with expansion. More people meant more opinions, more responsibilities, and more opportunities for misunderstandings. Conflicts didn't happen often, but when they did, Jimmy approached them with calm intention. He listened carefully, trying to understand each perspective without judgment. His quiet demeanor helped de-escalate tension and guide conversations toward solutions. Jimmy learned that conflict wasn't always negative. Sometimes disagreements revealed new ideas or highlighted problems that needed attention. Instead of avoiding difficult discussions, he created space for open dialogue. He encouraged team members to express their concerns honestly. These conversations strengthened their trust and helped the team grow more resilient. The process taught him how to guide people through challenges while maintaining a respectful environment. Learning to delegate became one of Jimmy's biggest adjustments. For years, he had handled nearly every aspect of production himself, from planning to editing. Letting go of certain tasks felt uncomfortable at first. He worried that others wouldn't understand the nuances he cared about. But he also knew that the channel's growth required collaboration. Delegating responsibility gradually helped him focus on the bigger picture. He began assigning tasks based on each person's strengths, Editors handled complex timelines, organizers managed props and schedules, and creative thinkers helped brainstorm ideas. This structure improved efficiency and reduced the pressure Jimmy carried alone. As the team developed confidence in their roles, Jimmy recognized how much stronger the channel became through shared effort. Trusting others allowed him to concentrate on his core passions. Delegation also helped Jimmy create a healthier balance in his own life. He no longer had to stay up every night editing or preparing materials for the next shoot. The extra time allowed him to think strategically and develop long-term plans. It also gave him space to rest and reflect, which improved the quality of his ideas. Slowly, he realized that letting others contribute didn't dilute his vision. It amplified it. Trust became the foundation of this new phase. Jimmy understood that trust wasn't built overnight. It developed through consistent communication and shared experiences. He made an effort to check in with team members regularly and provide feedback when needed. His calm leadership style created an atmosphere where people felt comfortable taking initiative. Over time, the team learned to anticipate what he valued and deliver work that aligned with his expectations. He also discovered that trusting others meant accepting occasional mistakes. When errors occurred, Jimmy remained composed. He viewed mistakes as part of the learning process, rather than failures. This attitude encouraged team members to experiment without fear of criticism. It also reinforced the idea that progress came from persistence, not perfection. His patience helped the team grow more confident and capable. As responsibilities became distributed more evenly, Jimmy noticed how much smoother production days became. The team operated with a quiet rhythm that kept projects on track. Each person understood their role, and everyone supported one another when unexpected challenges appeared. This sense of unity strengthened their ability to produce large-scale videos consistently. Jimmy felt grateful for the teamwork that had formed naturally around his vision. Delegating creative decisions was another significant step. Jimmy had always been protective of his ideas, but he learned to appreciate when others contributed creatively. Sometimes a small suggestion from a team member improved a scene or added humor to a challenge. These contributions enriched the content and made the process more collaborative. It reminded Jimmy that creativity thrived when multiple voices were heard. There were moments when Jimmy had to make final decisions, especially when ideas conflicted. He approached these situations thoughtfully, weighing each option carefully. His calm, analytical mindset helped him choose paths that balanced creativity with practicality. Even when his decisions differed from others' suggestions, he ensured everyone understood the reasoning. This clarity maintained harmony within the team. As the team's trust in Jimmy grew, they began taking more initiative during productions. They anticipated needs, adjusted plans, and supported each other through demanding shoots. This independence allowed the channel to operate more efficiently. Jimmy appreciated how the team adapted to challenges with confidence. Their growth affirmed his belief in collaborative leadership. The experience of leading and delegating taught Jimmy valuable lessons about responsibility. He learned that leadership required both guidance and flexibility. He realized that trusting others didn't diminish his role, it strengthened the entire operation. The balance between direction and trust became the foundation of his leadership style. It allowed the team to thrive while maintaining the quality that defined the brand. Through these experiences, Jimmy grew into a leader who understood the importance of shared purpose. He recognized that the channel's success came from collective effort, not just individual determination. His ability to lead calmly and delegate wisely positioned the team for greater challenges ahead. These lessons shaped the way he would approach future projects. And as the channel continued expanding, the strength of the team became one of its greatest assets. As Jimmy's brand continued expanding, he began thinking beyond individual videos. The projects he imagined were no longer simple challenges or short competitions. They were large-scale concepts that required months of preparation, extensive resources, and full coordination from his team. Each new idea pushed the boundaries of what was possible on YouTube. The scope of his vision grew steadily, becoming more ambitious with every passing year. Planning these larger ideas required Jimmy to develop new levels of organization and patience. He mapped out timelines, evaluated budgets, and anticipated challenges before they occurred. He studied the logistics of each concept, making sure every detail aligned with the final vision. The work demanded long hours of thought and careful calculation. He approached every step with calm focus, understanding that precision was essential for success. Despite his confidence, the increased scale also brought a new sense of pressure. Jimmy knew that bigger projects carried higher expectations from viewers. A single misstep could waste substantial time and resources. He sometimes felt a quiet fear of failure that remained in the background of his planning. This fear didn't stop him, but it made him more thoughtful about each decision. He learned to balance ambition with caution. Jimmy understood that his mission extended beyond creating viral content. He wanted each video to make a meaningful impact, whether through entertainment, generosity, or emotional resonance. These goals shaped his planning process. He asked himself whether each project aligned with the message he wanted to share. The clarity of his mission guided him through periods of doubt and uncertainty. It gave him direction when the pressure felt overwhelming. As he planned increasingly complex challenges, Jimmy relied more heavily on his team. They helped translate ideas into actionable steps, offering insights that improved execution. Their support allowed him to focus on creativity without being weighed down by every logistical detail. This collaboration strengthened the team's confidence and expanded their collective abilities. It also helped Jimmy stay connected to the broader vision. The fear of failure remained, but Jimmy learned how to manage it. He reminded himself that risk was part of growth and that setbacks were opportunities for learning. He reviewed past challenges that had once seemed impossible, but eventually succeeded. These reflections grounded him and reinforced his belief in persistence. With each new project, he became more resilient and adaptable. Thinking long-term helped Jimmy maintain perspective. He understood that building a legacy required patience and consistent effort. Not every video needed to be a breakthrough, and not every idea would unfold perfectly. What mattered most was the steady progression toward larger goals. This mindset allowed him to approach each project with calm determination rather than pressure. He focused on improvement instead of perfection. The mission behind his work became more defined as the years passed. Jimmy wanted to inspire kindness, encourage creativity, and show the impact of collective effort. These values influenced the themes of his larger projects. They helped him decide which ideas were worth pursuing and which ones needed more refinement. His mission became a guiding force that shaped the direction of the brand. Even as his ideas became more ambitious, Jimmy never lost the sense of excitement that fueled his early work. He still felt a spark each time he thought of a new concept. He still experienced a quiet thrill when an idea began taking shape. This excitement helped him endure the long planning phases. It also reminded him why he started creating videos in the first place. Jimmy's ability to remain focused during periods of uncertainty became one of his greatest strengths. He accepted that not all ideas would succeed, but he trusted his vision enough to keep trying. His calm persistence allowed him to navigate the challenges of growth without becoming overwhelmed. He stayed grounded through long hours, difficult choices, and shifting responsibilities. This focus helped him maintain stability as the brand moved toward even larger horizons. As Jimmy planned new projects, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. The years of reinvestment, experimentation, and quiet perseverance gave him the foundation he needed. The team he built offered support, creativity, and strength. These experiences reinforced his belief that the future held even greater possibilities. His mission remained steady, guiding him toward the next phase of growth. This chapter marked a period of deep reflection and long-term planning. Jimmy balanced ambition with responsibility, managing pressure with calm intention. He looked to the future with optimism, grounded in the values that shaped his work. The legacy he envisioned extended far beyond viral videos. It carried the promise of impact, inspiration, and continued creativity, built slowly and intentionally over time. As Jimmy continued building larger projects, he found himself thinking more often about the future. The channel was no longer just a creative outlet. It had become a platform with the potential to create long-term change. He understood that every decision he made now could shape what the brand would represent years from today. This awareness encouraged him to think strategically rather than impulsively. He approached each choice with quiet intention. His long-term vision centered on giving more than he received. Jimmy believed that success was most meaningful when it created opportunities for others. Whether through philanthropy, entertainment, or community support, he wanted to expand his impact in ways that extended beyond YouTube. This mindset guided the direction of new projects. It also influenced how he evaluated ideas, budgets, and collaborations. Jimmy often reflected on how far generosity had carried the channel. Giving had always been a core part of his identity, even when he had very little to offer. Now that he had the resources to make a greater difference, he felt a responsibility to use them wisely. He considered how each project could help someone or inspire viewers to be kinder. These reflections helped him refine his mission with greater clarity. Thinking about the future also meant preparing for sustainability. Jimmy understood that large-scale projects required careful planning to remain financially viable. He considered ways to balance creativity with long-term resource management. This balance ensured that his generosity would continue without compromising stability. He approached these considerations with calm thoughtfulness, avoiding rushed decisions that could disrupt his progress. The concept of legacy became more meaningful during this period. Jimmy didn't view legacy as fame or recognition. Instead, he saw it as the lasting impact of the values he carried. He hoped that people would remember his work for the positive changes it encouraged. This perspective shaped the tone of his videos and the intentions behind each challenge. It also strengthened his commitment to consistent, purposeful content. Jimmy's plans for the future expanded beyond the digital world. He imagined physical spaces where people could gather, learn, or receive support. He envisioned charitable programs that operated independently of views or algorithms. These ideas represented the next stage of growth, one that connected generosity with real-world structures. Although these concepts required time and careful execution, he felt inspired by their potential. They gave him new motivation during demanding periods. Despite his ambition, Jimmy remained humble about his future goals. He understood that every plan required patience and collaboration. He knew he couldn't accomplish everything alone. This humility helped him stay grounded as he explored new opportunities. It also strengthened his relationships with team members and supporters. They appreciated his sincerity and recognized the authenticity behind his plans. Jimmy continued to think about how he could inspire others to participate in acts of kindness. He believed that generosity could spread through small actions, not just large donations. His videos demonstrated creativity, teamwork, and compassion, offering viewers a model for positive behavior. He hoped that these examples would encourage others to help their communities. This ripple effect became an important part of his long-term vision. Preparing for the future also required Jimmy to think about his own role within the team. As the brand grew, he understood that leadership would evolve. He considered how to guide others while still giving them space to develop their ideas. This consideration helped him plan for a structure that supported both growth and independence. His calm approach ensured that the transition would be smooth and thoughtful. Jimmy also reflected on the importance of balancing his work with personal well-being. He realized that maintaining long-term impact required emotional and physical stability. He began adopting habits that protected his energy, allowing him to sustain creativity over time. These small changes strengthened his ability to manage stress. They also helped him remain consistent during demanding periods. His vision for the future became a source of quiet motivation. It reminded him why he had worked so hard and why each project mattered. The long-term goals gave direction to his daily efforts, connecting them to something larger. This sense of purpose guided his decisions and shaped his path forward. It helped him stay focused on the values that defined his work. Through reflection and planning, Jimmy developed a clearer understanding of the legacy he hoped to create. He wanted to leave behind a body of work that encouraged positivity, generosity, and resilience. He imagined a future where his influence continued inspiring others long after individual videos faded from memory. This vision strengthened his resolve to keep improving and expanding thoughtfully. It became a quiet promise he made to himself. As Jimmy's influence continued to grow, people across the creator world began noticing something distinctive about the way he worked. His leadership didn't rely on loud authority or forceful direction. Instead, it came from quiet consistency, gentle communication, and the unwavering example he set through action. Other creators admired how he approached large-scale projects with patience rather than pressure. His calm presence made even the most ambitious ideas feel achievable. Jimmy's humility became one of his defining traits. Despite reaching milestones that few creators ever imagined, he never carried himself with arrogance or entitlement. He continued speaking softly, thinking carefully, and showing genuine appreciation for each opportunity. When he met other creators or fans, he treated them with kindness, as if meeting peers rather than admirers. This humility made his success feel grounded and accessible. It also encouraged others to adopt a similar approach. Within his team, Jimmy's humility fostered an environment of mutual respect. He invited feedback, welcomed different perspectives, and never assumed he had all the answers. Team members felt valued because he listened to their ideas with genuine interest. This approach strengthened collaboration and helped the group remain united. The lack of ego made work feel comfortable even during high-pressure projects. Jimmy's soft leadership style influenced the creator community at large. Many creators studied how he structured his videos, managed his team, and reinvested into his content. They noticed that he never focused on personal fame. Instead, he focused on better storytelling, stronger community impact, and long-term sustainability. His example demonstrated that creators could grow without sacrificing humility. His quiet success challenged the idea that loudness was necessary for influence. He also showed that generosity could be a driving force behind content. By centering many of his projects around helping others, Jimmy inspired creators to rethink their approach to impact. Some incorporated charity into their videos, while others pursued community-driven projects. Jimmy never expected others to follow his path, but his actions naturally encouraged change. His calm dedication made people feel that meaningful work was within their reach. The power of humility shaped how viewers perceived him as well. People felt comfortable watching his content because it lacked ego or pretense. Instead of showcasing wealth or status, Jimmy showcased effort, teamwork, and sincerity. This tone resonated deeply with audiences around the world. It made his videos feel relatable despite their massive scale. Viewers sensed authenticity, and that trust became a major part of his legacy. Jimmy understood that humility helped maintain balance during periods of intense growth. It reminded him of where he started and why he continued creating. Whenever challenges arose, he returned to the values that shaped his early years: curiosity, patience, and kindness. These values guided him through complex decisions and kept him grounded as responsibilities increased. Humility became an anchor that prevented success from overwhelming him. His leadership style also influenced the emotional tone of the workplace. Instead of creating a competitive environment, Jimmy cultivated a space where people felt safe to learn, experiment, and make mistakes. He encouraged improvement without harsh criticism. This gentle structure helped the team grow stronger over time. It also allowed them to manage stress more effectively during demanding production schedules. As the channel evolved, Jimmy's humility attracted people who shared similar values. New team members joined because they admired his calm leadership and meaningful mission. This alignment strengthened the brand's identity and increased the consistency of their work. Everyone understood that the goal wasn't personal recognition. It was collaborative achievement rooted in positive impact. Jimmy's quiet approach set the tone for these shared principles. His influence extended beyond YouTube as well. Business leaders, educators, and nonprofit organizations referenced his work as an example of innovation driven by empathy. They saw how he combined entertainment with purpose in a way that reached millions. Jimmy didn't view himself as a leader in these fields, but his work demonstrated that creativity and kindness could coexist. His actions spoke louder than any formal title could. The more he achieved, the more he leaned into humility. He avoided celebrating success loudly and preferred focusing on the next idea. He believed that accomplishments were simply stepping stones toward greater goals. This mindset allowed him to stay consistent and avoid distractions that often accompany fame. His humility protected his long-term vision and kept his priorities clear. Jimmy's soft leadership transformed not just his team, but the larger landscape of online content. His calm, thoughtful approach showed that influence didn't require noise or dominance. It required consistency, sincerity, and a willingness to give more than one expected in return. These qualities shaped the legacy he was quietly building. They became hallmarks of his journey and pillars for everything he created. As Jimmy looked back on the years of creating, he saw a journey shaped by small decisions rather than sudden breakthroughs. Each video, each late-night edit, and each reinvested dollar represented a step forward. The growth was gradual, built on discipline and consistency rather than shortcuts. He realized that the quiet effort he poured into the channel had mattered more than any single milestone. His determination had carried him through moments of doubt and uncertainty. He reflected on how his values guided every stage of the journey. Curiosity pushed him to experiment. Generosity motivated his projects, and humility kept him grounded. These principles stayed with him even as the audience grew into the millions. Jimmy understood that success without purpose felt empty, and he worked hard to ensure his content reflected meaning. His calm approach helped maintain clarity as the brand evolved. It allowed him to stay true to the mission he had envisioned. The people who supported him played an essential role in shaping his path. His team, his closest friends, and his viewers all contributed to the growth in different ways. Jimmy valued these connections deeply and acknowledged how much they strengthened his work. Their trust helped him navigate the complexities of large-scale production. Their encouragement reminded him that he didn't have to face challenges alone. Jimmy often thought about the unique relationship he shared with his audience. Viewers from around the world found comfort, inspiration, or excitement in his videos. He appreciated how his work reached people during ordinary moments of their lives. This connection gave him a sense of responsibility that he carried quietly. It encouraged him to create content that uplifted others and reflected kindness. As he looked toward the future, Jimmy felt motivated by the possibilities ahead. He knew there were new challenges to face and new stories to tell. larger projects, broader impact, and expanded philanthropy all felt within reach. Yet he approached these goals with the same calm mindset he always had. He understood that growth took time and that each step required careful planning. His steady determination remained unchanged. He recognized that the world of online content would continue evolving. Trends would shift, platforms would change, and audience expectations would grow. But Jimmy felt prepared to adapt because the foundation of his work was built on timeless values. Creativity, generosity, and consistency were principles that didn't fade. They gave him confidence that he could continue making meaningful content regardless of the environment. Jimmy's quiet determination had shaped not only his channel, but the culture around him. He demonstrated that success didn't require loudness or aggression. Instead, it could be built through patience, respect, and hard work. His leadership showed that collaboration was more powerful than competition. His generosity showed that impact mattered more than display. These lessons became part of the legacy he was crafting. As he reflected on the early days of making videos in his bedroom, he felt grateful for the challenges he once faced. The financial struggles, long hours, and uncertain moments had taught him resilience. They prepared him for the scale and responsibility of his current work. He viewed these experiences not as obstacles, but as essential chapters in his development. They grounded him as he continued to grow. The future of his journey remained unwritten, but Jimmy felt optimistic. He carried a clear sense of purpose and a calm confidence in his abilities. He knew that whatever direction he took, the values that guided him from the beginning would continue shaping his path. His quiet determination had brought him far, and it would continue leading him forward. The legacy he envisioned was still in progress, unfolding gradually with each new idea. In the end, Jimmy's story reflected more than the rise of a creator. It highlighted the power of humility, kindness, and steady effort. His journey showed that transformation could happen quietly, without noise or spectacle, and through his work, he inspired others to pursue their own paths with patience and sincerity. His impact extended far beyond individual videos, forming a calm but lasting influence on the creator world. Their journey reminds us that real growth often begins quietly, long before the results can be seen. Each small step, each patient effort becomes part of something larger over time. Let this reminder help your thoughts settle as the night grows still. You've given your mind a moment to slow down and breathe. Allow that calm to guide you gently toward sleep.